Welcome to today's presentation on grief and loss brought to you by Alliant Health Solutions. Alliant is a strategic partner in the National COVID-19 Resiliency Network. The National COVID-19 Resiliency Network is a national initiative designed to mitigate the impact of COVID on populations disproportionately impacted by the pandemic. The pandemic has caused a tremendous amount of grief and loss. Listen as our presenter, Courtney Batten, share ways to cope with grief.
Hi, I'm Courtney Batten. I'm a licensed mental health counselor and behavioral health quality advisor with Alliant Health Solutions. This is a presentation on grief and loss. Grief impacts all of us, and it's one of the most difficult emotions we'll experience in our lives. We feel grief so deeply that we can't ignore it. This presentation will explain what grief and mourning is and healthy strategies to help us work through these times. Grief is the internal emotion we experience with a loss. We experience grief with the loss of a loved one, a natural disaster, or other traumatic event in our lives. Mourning is when you take the grief you have on the inside and express it outside of yourself. Other people can see your mourning. Examples of mourning would include crying, preparing for a funeral, or celebrating anniversary dates that held a significant meaning. Grief and mourning are closely tied to each other. Both can be very intense and painful after a loss, but can decrease over time as healing takes place. The experiences that lead to grief and loss are numerous. When we think about grief and loss, the most clear example we think of is the death of a loved one or someone we care about. But grief and loss includes other experiences as well. Examples include illness or loss of health, COVID-19, and natural disasters like hurricanes, fires, floods, and tornadoes. It can include the loss of financial security, loss of employment or your home, and divorce or relationship breakup. It can also include other experiences that aren't listed here, like aging and loss of independence. Although grief includes all of these experiences and more, this presentation will focus on the grief associated with the death of a loved one or someone we care about. Grief and loss can leave you with many emotions. Devastation can leave us feeling overwhelmed and not knowing where to turn. Anxiety and stress can arise from fear of being unable to care for yourself or awareness of your own mortality. We can also experience difficulty concentrating, shock, disbelief, and denial. These emotions can occur with both sudden and anticipated deaths. Other emotions include feeling helpless, having a lack of energy and motivation, feeling sad or numb, not being able to sleep or eat, or having survivor's guilt. Survivor's guilt is a type of guilt that can develop in people who've survived a life-threatening situation when others haven't. We can also experience other emotions and behaviors that aren't listed here, like having dreams or nightmares, withdrawing from our activities, or avoiding things and places that remind us of our loss. COVID-19 has created another layer of grief and loss that we haven't experienced before. This includes being unable to be at the bedside of a loved one who's critically or gravely ill, being unable to say goodbye to a loved ones transitioning or dying alone, being unable to have a funeral or memorial service, the death of multiple family and friends. The pandemic has also created additional losses such as fear, isolation, and loss of financial security. Because grief can be so painful, it's easy to avoid or deny the loss to protect ourselves and try to hold things together. But avoidance doesn't allow us to process our grief in a healthy way and actually makes the process longer. So while it's difficult and painful, having healthy experiences allows us to honor our loved ones and help ourselves heal. Healthy ways to cope with a loss include acknowledging your losses and feelings of grief, honoring your loved one in a memorial or funeral service, connecting with other people and sharing memories, creating memories like planting a memorial tree, creating a photo album or memory book, or preparing a meal that was special to you and the loved one who died. It's important to seek help and support through grief counseling, spiritual support from a faith-based organization, or from trusted friends and family. And one of the most meaningful things we can do to honor the memory of our loved ones is to be the things you love the most about the people who are gone. Taking care of yourself is essential during a time of loss. You can take care of yourself by taking breaks and unwinding by doing relaxing things that you enjoy, connecting with family and friends for support, taking care of your body by getting exercise, eating healthy foods and getting enough rest, and taking the time to pray, meditate, practice mindfulness, and reflect on the things you're grateful for. Being mindful and appreciating the moment and beauty all around you can help you cope with your grief. Mindfulness includes using all of your senses to see, feel, hear, smell, and taste everything around you. Putting positive energy into mindfulness can help lessen the grip of sadness and darkness that you might experience. It may seem like a contradiction to be grateful when you're grieving, but in reality, gratitude is a special thing that actually helps you embrace your grief and use it as fuel to move you forward in your healing. Practicing gratitude can help you find new ways to bring joy and happiness into your life. Ways to help other people cope with their grief include being a good listener, asking about their feelings, just sitting with them, asking about their loss, remembering their loss and acknowledging their pain, letting them feel sad without minimizing their grief, and being available when you can. There's no normal response to grief. Everyone grieves differently. It's not predictable and it doesn't go in a special order. What works for one person may not work for another. Grieving is a process and it takes energy. Treat yourself with the same care, kindness, and affection you would someone you care about. Take your time. You don't just get over grief. Grieving is different for everyone, and healing for each loss happens in its own time. It's important to acknowledge your loss and remember and honor your loved one in a way that's meaningful to you. Process your grief by accepting your emotions, giving yourself the time you need, and seeking support. And express your grief in ways that you choose and that work for you. Examples of ways to express yourself can include journaling, celebrating special days, or saying goodbye in a eulogy. Whatever you choose is okay. Sometimes we can do healthy things like acknowledge our loss, connect with others, and pray, but we still need additional help, and that's okay. Reach out if you're not able to take care of yourself or your family, are not able to do your job, use alcohol or drugs to escape your grief, just don't feel like yourself, feel depressed for an extended time, or think about suicide. Remember that hope and help is available. Here's a list of free resources where you can get help. We hope this information was helpful for you or someone you care about. Remember, you are important. Please reach out for support and help if you need it.